How do you say his last name?
I don't know. I have trouble with it all the time. Rob K.
We're going to say Rob K then.
Yeah.
Performance leadership coach and elite high performance. But what we're going to do is we have a pre-recorded speech from him over this topic, and the topic is how to avoid becoming an asshole boss. So we're going to play this via YouTube for you, and then we'll share the link at the end. The video is about 10 minutes too long for the 30 minutes that we have allotted for it, but we will share the link so you can watch the remainder if you like. And I'll let Rob take it away.
But don't let his cute exterior fool you. He is a nightmare to manage. Let me tell you what he did. A few weeks ago, we're out for a walk, and suddenly he just takes a beeline to the bushes, bites down, starts pulling with all his might. I finally caught up to what my son was doing. My 30-pound labradoodle was trying to devour a 30-foot ash tree. And just imagine that this is an entire tree. And yeah, Winston loves challenges. And I just watched him trying to chomp away at this tree, and I'm like, I need to get him to stop. So for the next 10 minutes, I tried everything I could to get him to stop. I asked, I begged, I pulled his leash, I yelled. Someone gave up, sat down, felt frustrated, powerless. And I'm thinking, 20,000 dogs surging in the U.S. Army, rescuing drowning pilots, exposing enemy ambushes, taking messages across enemy lines. 2 Australian dogs, Corey and Gunner, they alerted troops of incoming planes 20 minutes before human hearing could pick it up. Meanwhile, my dog's like, got a tree. And as a leadership coach, I talk a lot about self-awareness, emotional intelligence, and empathy. And even after many years of training, still made a dog and a tree made me realize that in this instance, I was a complete asshole. And I've noticed that other dog owners really, there's kind of 4 different types. There's the first type who are like, hey, in order to get your dog to comply, be more aggressive. Show him who's boss. That'll teach him. Other dog owners are like, if you enroll them in some classes, upgrade their skills. That'll help them. They're the third dog owners are like, fire your dog and hire a more competent dog like this German Shepherd. And finally, there are people who say, you consider journaling? To be fair, those people say that about everything. And yeah, I wrote it in my journal this morning. But seriously, all of these proposed solutions have the same base assumption. The problem is with the dog. What I realized is that this has nothing to do with the dog. And you might be wondering why I'm so concerned about how to manage my dog. It's because my greatest fear is that one one day, police will walk up to me, bark, "That's it, I'm out," and bolt right through the door. You know, just like in those movies where the main character walks into their boss's office, shouts, "I quit." That's been on my mind a lot recently because of how many people are doing it in real life. They're even recording it. Have you seen these?
This is Brianna, and I quit. This week I quit. I quit my job.
I quit my job and my friend filmed it all.
So I quit.
I quit.
You have to ask Chris for the champagne later. These are called quit talks. Thousands of these are out on social media with millions watching and applying. And you might think that quitting a video of resignation, it's a very Gen Z, very American thing. I can say that by being Canadian. But quitting's not. That's everybody. The global wave of the Great Resignation is currently being referred to as job hopping here in Australia. But it's hitting retail, manufacturing, admin, professional services, healthcare, across generations, across the board. And you might also think of these people as overdramatic or entitled or a nuisance for employers. Or you could even sense a desperate cry for help. These people didn't have anyone, so they chose to broadcast to everyone. But if you look at the comments, they'll say the same things. Hey, your boss must be an asshole. I mean, to be fair, nobody quits their job going, "My boss was so nice to me today. You're just so overwhelming." Right? And you know what? These commenters are probably right. Since 2021, no matter what country you look at, over 50% of the people who quit their jobs did so because of bad management. So most of us, we've either worked for the asshole or we are the asshole. But you know what's really frightening? That statistically, at some point down the road, we're all going to be a bad boss. So the question is, how do we avoid becoming a bad boss? Let's break it down. When we hear about a stereotypical asshole boss, what are some of the traits that you think of? Shout them out at me. Aggressive, yeah?
Micromanaging.
Micromanager, yeah?
No.
Listen, I didn't hear that one. Yeah, those are really great answers, and you'll find out shortly. For me, when I think of a stereotypical boss, I think of Will Ferrell. I mean, no, not Will Ferrell, the actor, but he's a really great guy. I mean, I've never met him, but this Saturday Night Live sketch with Will Ferrell.
So what do you think? I think I want the job. Fantastic. Oh, excellent. Great. So we'll give you a pass key and assign you a desk and a parking space.
Excuse me, Mr. Tarkanian?
Why are you interrupting me?
Well, I just thought that you...
You thought? You thought? You do not interrupt me! I don't know what you pull this amateur bull crap, all right? I'm a professional! Do you hear me? Do you understand me?
Yes, Mr. Tarkanian.
What was that about? I'm sorry you didn't see that, Gina. She can be a real bitch.
I mean, that's fiction, right? Nobody does that in real life, right? I don't know if you guys watch hockey here. That actually hits home with me. I used to be a polo coach, and I also had a coach throw a chair in the pool. So the stereotypical asshole boss is arrogant, unfair, physically or verbally abusive. They set unreasonable expectations and they punish their people when they don't make it. And there's an incredible study that came out of Sweden last year. For the first time ever, researchers not only looked at destructive leadership in general, but also took a deep dive into what makes bad bosses tick. And it turns out those asshole bosses with the real feral traits were only experienced by 5.5% of the total workforce. Here's the graph they made.
Look at this graph.
If only I had a nickel back for every graph that didn't make sense. So the researchers compiled 7 completely distinct leadership profiles. And yes, looking at this graph, you can tell it was Swedish research. Because the Swedes are like the IKEA of research. Great at assembling things, but good luck at making sense of instructions. So let's simplify it a bit because the results are actually really important. Here's the first boss that we talked about with the real feral traits, which we've named arrogant and violent. But there are many other bosses that less frequently resort to violence. But they're highly egocentric, they take all credit for themselves, they don't trust their people, but they do take credit for their work. These people are almost 20% of leaders. Have you had a boss like that? I have, and almost 20% of people have. Then there are the bosses on the other end of the spectrum. The bosses that are too passive, like the cowardly boss, or also known as the ghost manager. These people, they avoid confrontation, they don't really show an active interest in the company, and when leadership's required, they're not there. You can identify these folks by key phrases like, "That's not my decision, it's upper management." Or, "I don't want to be a micromanager, you figure it out." Actually, heard that one. Then we have the messy bosses. They are bad at structuring and planning, they're bad at giving instructions, and it starts to confuse their employees. And that's why, to identify these folks, it's really just look for chaos in the organization. These leaders don't have priorities, they don't know what to do, and so their people are confused. And finally, rounding out the bad boss profiles, we have the combination types. The passive-aggressive bosses who will avoid confrontation, but they'll use threats and violence if it gets in the right way. And the passive egocentrics that will do anything to get ahead, and they'll claim all credit as their own, but they'll do so behind your back. The end result is shocking. Only 1/3 of the global workforce works for the leaders who are low in destructive traits. And the rest, a full 2/3, work for leaders who are actively or passively destructive in various ways. And some of you, you'll be looking at these results and going, why change if it gets its results? And the truth is, it doesn't. Short-term results, maybe, sometimes, but the more a leader falls to the right on this graph, the more destructive effect they have on the workforce, which derails your company from the long-term goals and consequently the bottom line. And that combined effect is known as the global destructive factor. And yes, that does sound like a 1996 movie starring Jean-Claude Van Damme. He's trying to save Kylie Minogue from Sylvester Stallone. That movie has my 2 favorite things: martial arts and Swedish psychological research. Anyways, the profiles show a clear trend. The bosses with low amounts of destructive behavior are going to be the ones that succeed in the long run. And even the bosses who are messy and non-confrontational, they'll do okay. The rest, they're going to lower workforce productivity, they're going to lower workforce production performance, and they're going to increase employee burnout. In short, the more destructive the boss, the more toxic the workplace. And as 20th century poet Britney Spears said in her study on the modern employee's relationship to the workplace, "I'm addicted to you. Don't you know that you're toxic?" And you could be looking at this data and saying, you know, Rob, that's the way it's always been. And that would be true. But what has changed is employees' reactions. Just a few months ago, MIT released this study where they analyzed over 34 million online employee reviews. And today, when deciding whether to stay or go, toxic culture is 10 times more important than salary. You can't outpay a toxic culture. And I'll go a step further. The ramifications of toxic culture is more than just increased employee turnover, lower profitability, and the potential that you will be on the wrong end of the next viral crypto video. Last year, the University of South Australia released this study, which says that toxic work environments increase employee risk of heart attacks and stroke, and also increases depression by 300%. And where there's more depression, there's more suicide. Toxic workplaces are literally killing us. And you might be wondering, how does this play out for us in every industry? Got bad news. Men in every industry commit suicide at 2.5 to 3 times the rate of the general population. And here in Australia, in construction, someone commits suicide every other day. And it almost killed me too. When I started off in the working world, I thought I had it all. Up to that point, I'd done everything right. I was playing water polo in the Canadian junior national team. I was a 3-time academic All-American, and I graduated with a mechanical engineering degree from MIT. Got a job as a reliability engineer in mining, and I stepped into the working world. My background was different, and that led me to finding savings that no one else did. Led me to saving the company millions. I thought I was on the fast track to success. I thought I was on the fast track to happiness. And then it all came crumbling down. My boss was a passive-aggressive manager. He was bad at instructions, he gave unclear, he flip-flopped, but nothing was ever good enough for him. His mottos were, don't rock the boat, and we've always done it this way. And that's the real danger of destructive leaders. It's what they do in the long run. Passive-aggressive leaders are responsible for the highest rates of employee burnout and the lowest rates of job satisfaction. And that's what happened to me. I wasn't aware of it at the time. I had spent my entire life looking for recognition and validation from my superiors. That was the survival strategy that I used. From the workplace, to the pool, to the classroom, the mask I wore was the guy who gets results. Reliable Rob. I didn't really know who I was. And I wore that mask for so long, I thought that I was him. And that was where my manager was able to start making me question myself. I questioned my job choices, then my purpose, and then whether my life had meaning at all. Now, a sinkhole is defined as a depression in the Earth's surface caused by the collapse of the surface layer. Ironically, I would describe depression as a sinkhole in the mind caused by the identity surface layer. The key difference is, with depression, often you can be hundreds of meters underground before you realize anything's wrong. That's what happened to me. I didn't know I was depressed. I just knew nothing was working. And so I did the only thing I did know how to do. I worked out. I swam, I lifted, I biked, I ran. Got on a diet, got shredded. Spoiler alert, it doesn't help. And by the end of it, I was running through the forest 4 hours a day. But no matter how fast I ran, I couldn't outrun the thoughts in my mind. In 2013, 6 months after this photo was taken, I tried to take my life. It wasn't a plan. I didn't even really want it to happen. It just sort of happened. And there's two ways this plays out. The first, being global destructive force. Jean-Claude Van Damme just got knocked down. Jean-Claude Van Damme was me. Just got knocked down by his manager, Sylvester Stallone. And suddenly, while he's trying to gather himself, he gets a flashback and the words of his father echo. So, remember, each time you get knocked down, you get right back up on that bike again. This is how you defeat your enemies. And suddenly, Van Damme springs to his feet, knocking out Sylvester Stallone. And then he goes on to save Kylie Minogue just in time for her to record the end credits. A song that plays over the end credits of this movie. And yeah, don't watch this. You might be surprised, but my experience was a little different. Turns out, you're not guaranteed an epiphany when you hit rock bottom. When I hit rock bottom, it wasn't the moment where I changed my life. I didn't quit my job. I didn't move to the beach. I didn't even get a flashback. You know what I actually did? When I woke up the next morning, I was still alive. I just got dressed and went to work. By the way, that's what a lot of survivors do. I didn't tell anyone. Not at work, not in my family, not even my psychiatrist. My life was killing me, and I didn't know how to change. I didn't even know how to start. And so I did the only thing I did know how to do. I kept working. A year later, I got a job as a reliability consultant, consulting across heavy industry, mining, pulp and paper, manufacturing, over 60 sites in total. And when I traveled to these sites, I started to notice a trend. I would go and find the most experienced mechanic, millwright, operator, technician, and I ask them, hey, what's wrong with this site and how to fix it? They always had an answer. And then you know what they'd say to me? I don't even tell anyone anymore. Nobody listens. Looking back at it now, I realize those people were just as depressed as I was. We were all in our individual sinkholes, just waiting for someone to ask, someone to listen, someone to care. And also, as I traveled across these sites, I saw the work environments that we work in. The bullying, the harassment, the harsh environments. We already endure some of the harshest conditions on the planet, whether that's the Australian outback at plus 50 degrees or the Canadian Arctic at minus 50 degrees. We already fly in, fly out, work 12-hour shifts and don't see our families weeks at a time. If this job was a cupcake made out of tar and gravel, toxic management is the cherry on top. And by cherry, I mean 16-ton weight. Is there any wonder why we commit suicide at rates far higher than anyone else? A few years later, I started a podcast in maintenance and reliability because I wanted to know why we weren't getting the results that we worked so hard for. And coming from engineering, I thought the reason was in the technical stuff. The processes, the procedures, the technology. But one by one, the guests that came on the show, the barriers that they all said, two things: implementation and culture. And it took me a while, but finally it clicked. This all boils down to leadership. And that led me to a leadership coach, who's now my boss. She taught me what leadership could be. She also taught me about emotional intelligence, and that had me starting to connect with parts of me that had locked away. That led me back into therapy. And when I was in therapy, I realized I needed more help, which led me to a great psychiatrist who manages my medication. Those were my puzzle pieces. Therapy helped me heal the trauma that I had and to find out who I was underneath the discarded mask of reliable Rob. The medication was a helping hand in the sinkhole. And the coaching taught me who I could become. Someone who helps people avoid the suffering that I went through. And that's why I'm here today. I walk the shop floors with people like you. I suffered the toxic cultures like many of you have. And most importantly, I can show you a better way. Just this year alone, I've coached over 80 leaders, and with their direct reports, I've impacted over 1,000 people. Those people are happier, they're healthier, and they get better results. I'm sure many of you have seen these before. Almost all the head companies in heavy industry have a value statement. Health and safety is number one. People are number one. I've seen it posted on every wall I've ever been to at a site. And also, I took these off a few websites in our industries. But when it comes down to the mental health for people, nothing could be further from the truth. We hold on to this outdated idea. The only way is sucking it up, pushing it down, dismissing change, and ridiculing emotion. Even when we know that this culture sabotages growth, sabotages our happiness, and the performance of the company. And we just keep saying, that's the way it's always been. We could literally be an industry that unironically hands out trophies saying, I didn't commit suicide today. We have a massive gap between what we know we should be doing and what we're doing. So how do we bridge that gap? We're leaders. It's time to lead. We have to acknowledge what's in the best interest for us, our people, and our companies, and dismantle the toxic cultures that are literally killing people. Now, I know a few of you are still thinking about this graph from earlier. 34% is really small. Maybe I'm an asshole and I didn't know it. I don't know. Okay, slow down and take a deep breath.
All right, sorry, y'all. I'm going to have to cut it short for time constraints. I did want to show you the link if you'd like to see the last, I think there's about 10, 12 minutes left of it. That would be the link right there. I'll give you a little time to write it down before I end the session, but hope you got a lot out of it. All right, enjoy the rest of LRVS. I'm going to end the stream and Y'all have a good one. I'll see you on the next one. Adios.